Donald Trump, who's called Hitler. Donald Trump, who's called a dictator. He's the one that's leading the greatest civil rights movement of our day. That is the fight against anti-Semitism. Every department in the federal government, every U.S. attorney's office, led by the Attorney General, Leo Terrell, the Civil Rights Division, they're in court, they're fighting these colleges and universities, Hitler's friends at American universities. Well, today we have the Islamist Nazis' friends in our colleges and universities. Wouldn't it have been nice if somebody had fought them in the 1930s? Well, somebody's fighting them now. I want to swerve into this judge thing again because it's getting worse. It's not getting better. And these judges are getting more aggressive. They're getting cockier. They're trying to use their contempt power now. They're issuing orders as if there's some kind of a Soviet, judiciary, which in many respects they are. We're still waiting for the Supreme Court to do something about this. I fear that it either won't or it'll do some half-assed measure. But this is out of control, and it is destroying our republic as much as a takeover. Our government is destroying our republic. And again, if you read my book on power, you'll see I break all this down as well, on power as well as other things. But let's listen to this reporting on this first. Go.
The federal judge issued a temporary restraining order on the Trump administration's ban on Harvard's ability to enroll international students.
Okay, stop. Where does that come from? The executive branch has plenary power when it comes to immigration based on existing law and has a whole lot of open area in which to make executive decisions. We know this because the Supreme Court ruled this a long time ago, and the Constitution provides this. So if they want to limit the number of foreign students who can come into the country, that is these student visas, if they want to limit which colleges they can attend or what area of the workforce they can go into, the president has that power. He's not seizing power from anybody. This is a known power that a president has. The power to open borders, defy immigration laws, and bring people into the country illegally, this is all what Biden did 11 million times, is not constitutional. But in terms of managing this situation now, what the president's trying to do is constitutional. Go ahead.
Now, that ban would impact nearly a quarter of the student body.
Who cares if it impacts nearly a quarter of the students at Harvard? Who cares? What does that have to do with anything? Harvard doesn't run the country. Harvard's not in the Constitution. Who cares? Would it be the same Harvard who a few years ago the Supreme Court ruled against because they wouldn't let American-born Asian students into their college? I don't remember CNN or the rest of the left being upset about that. The contrary. The President of the United States, then Biden, and the media were all upset that Harvard couldn't discriminate against Asian candidates. Remember that? Or what about the 1930s? Bill Buckley famously said he'd rather be ruled by the first 1,000 names in the Boston phone book than these so-called experts and professors at Harvard. But CNN's very worried about Harvard and what's being done to Harvard. I want to remind you, Hitler's American Friends, the Third Reich Supporters in the United States by Bradley Hart. American universities did little to curtail the influence of pro-German speakers on campus. Throughout the decade, German exchange students, some of whom were Nazi Party members and were likely operating as propaganda agents, and other speakers were given mostly unchallenged platforms on university campuses. American universities, therefore, offered the German government a remarkable level of establishment legitimacy in the United States, even after the violently anti-Semitic nature of the regime had become clear, just as Hitler's corporate friends had showed little reluctance doing business with the Third Reich. His friends in academia maintained their own relationship with the Reich. Around the country, students and faculty alike increasingly became embroiled in unfolding international reunions in the 1930s as that progressed. Most often it was the vocally anti-Nazi professors, some of whom were themselves Jewish refugees from Nazi oppression, who faced the brunt of administrative repression. What's Harvard today doing about anti-Semitism? Not enough. That's why Donald Trump's had enough. It's an amazing thing. Donald Trump, who's called Hitler. Donald Trump, who's called a dictator. He's the one that's leading the greatest civil rights movement of our day. That is the fight against anti-Semitism. Every department in the federal government, every U.S. attorney's office, led by the Attorney General, Leo Terrell, the Civil Rights Division. They're in court. They're fighting these colleges and universities. Hitler's friends at American universities. Well, today we have the Islamist Nazis' friends in our colleges and universities. Wouldn't it have been nice if somebody had fought them in the 1930s? Well, somebody's fighting them now. And all we hear about is due process rights for the Islamo-Nazis and the Marxists, many of whom just come into our country. Excuse me. The ACLU doesn't run this country, and neither does Harvard. Full-scale due process rights have never been afforded to people coming into this country on student visas, which are supposed to be temporary to begin with. You don't get a student visa and then you get to stay in the country for the next 68 years. That's not what a student visa is. You're here on a student visa. You're a student, then get your ass out of here. That's how that works. But we have these left-wing Biden, Obama judges, some Republican judges who, of course, go off the cliff, as so many of them do, but the vast majority, they cherry-pick the judges in the jurisdiction, they've cherry-picked the cases, and there's John Roberts sitting there. What the hell's he doing? And Barrett, a great disappointment, she's sitting there. And right now they're getting away with it.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.